You already know the drill. You cancel the streaming subscriptions. You buy a chest freezer for the garage to stock up on bulk chicken. You own a label maker, and you have labeled things that did not need labeling. You have been careful for years in exactly the ways you were told to be. And yet, it feels like you are doing math in the cereal aisle. It feels like being $1,200 away from disaster while making decent money, with no one you can actually say that to. You are a competent adult enduring a daily audit on a change jar while you quietly lose ground. This visualization breaks down exactly where an average American household's money went in the 2024 Bureau of Labor Statistics data. Out of roughly $78,000 spent, housing took 33.4%. Transportation took another 17%. Add those together, and half of everything you earn vanishes before you buy a single item you would call your own. Food was 12.9%. Entertainment was just 4.6%. Here is the arithmetic of the personal finance industry. Half your money goes to two major decisions. Almost every piece of advice you have ever received is aimed squarely at the other half. It is much cheaper to write 100 articles lecturing you about your daily coffee habit than one honest article about your mortgage. We have been trained to aggressively monitor our daily micro-habits. We watch the change jar very, very closely, while the massive structural expenses of our lives stand completely unprotected. The math of common financial advice begins with credit scores. Nearly half the country believes that carrying a small balance on purpose is required to build credit. They are paying a monthly fee for a service that was never switched on. This equation shows how your score actually works. FICO relies on credit utilization, your statement balance divided by your limit. Carrying a balance raises the number you're trying to lower, harming your score directly. FICO says so in its own documentation. The penalty for this obedience is steep. The Federal Reserve puts the average rate on cards assessed interest at over 22%. On a $2,000 balance, that is a $440 charge every year, forever, for a benefit that does not exist. Then there is the driveway. We are told that buying a new car is the responsible adult choice. We justify it with words like warranty and reliability. The average new car payment is now roughly $770 a month. A reliable used car averages closer to $300. Taking that $470 gap and investing it at a standard 7% return over 30 years results in $570,000. Automotive marketing sells a version of yourself while masking a $500,000 compounding liability as a responsible life milestone. Next is the one that gets people emotional. We are handed a vocabulary that equates renting to throwing money away and homeownership to the ultimate financial investment. Either way, you are buying housing. The only question is what the numbers look like. The long-run data is remarkably boring. According to the historical series built by economist Robert Shiller, real home price growth across more than a century sits near 0.5% a year after inflation. 0.5% is a houseplant that grows one leaf a decade. And that 0.5% comes before the costs nobody puts in the listing. Property taxes taking 1 to 2%, maintenance taking another 1%, skyrocketing insurance premiums, then closing costs going in and out. At current interest rates, the first several years of a mortgage consist almost entirely of interest payments. You are paying rent to a bank instead of a landlord. American suburban housing is a physical structure exposed to the elements. It degrades. It requires constant, expensive physical upkeep just to maintain its baseline value. A mortgage acts as a behavioral savings plan that freezes your housing costs against future inflation. It eventually ends, which is worth an enormous amount, but it is not a magic wealth generator. The highest costs come from trying to be careful. Investors sit on cash, keeping a list of price targets and waiting for market dips because they believe buying at an all-time high is dangerous. The math punishes this caution heavily. Over the last 30 years, missing just the 30 best trading days dropped an investor's annualized return from 8.4% to 2.1%. And because roughly 76% of those best days happen during bear markets or the very start of a new bull run, waiting for calm guarantees you are standing where the bus already left, checking the schedule. But nothing extracts wealth quite like the fee you pay for financial expertise. The standard cost for the belief that a professional manager can beat a dumb index fund is a 1% active management fee, compared to a 0.03% fee you could buy yourself. This chart tracks exactly what that 1 percentage point difference does to $500,000 over 30 years. The index fund finishes with $3.81 million. The 1% fee finishes with $2.99 million. That single percentage point silently siphons $820,000 away from you. And what do you get for that? Standard & Poor's shows across 15 years, the number of active managers consistently beating their index is functionally zero. We see the same math in permanent life insurance, like whole life or indexed universal life. Pitched as an investment, a typical whole life policy pays between 80 and 100% of your entire first-year premium straight to the person selling it. Your cash value in year one is a rounding error inside someone else's commission. The financial industry extracts wealth without leaving a crime scene. There is only a smaller future that arrives on schedule, arriving with no receipt. We need to acknowledge one piece of advice that actually is arithmetically true: the latte factor. $5 a day at 7% over 30 years really does compound into about $184,000. It is a real number. This chart illustrates the scale of the misdirection. Look at 30 years of extreme daily discipline, $184,000. Now look at the structural expenses. The one conversation about a truck, $570,000. The 1 percentage point on a statement, $820,000. The whole life insurance policy, $220,000 in lost returns. Think about the emotional weight of that. You sit alone at 11 at night, doing mental subtraction, feeling behind, feeling guilty over a coffee or a streaming service. The latte factor gave an entire industry something cheap to repeat. It allowed them to sound tough while moving the responsibility for a rigged structural system squarely into your kitchen. It is a purposeful redirection. You only have to audit the 4 massive pillars of your spending once. Look at what you drive and how you paid for it. Look at what you live in and the real timeline of your stay. Go find the actual expense ratio on your retirement account and read the fine print on any insurance policy sold to you as an investment. Check those 4 pillars and you can stop apologizing for the change jar. This feeling of failure is a byproduct of advice optimized for being repeated, not for being true. You were handed a flashlight and told to point it at the change jar. It is time to point it at the vault instead.